What is up, everyone? And this is Drew. I'm coming at you with my 2024 presidential predictions. As you know, the election is tomorrow, and it's very exciting. You only get to do this every 4 years, two if you're a sicko who likes to do the midterms. And I'm going to talk about the election. I'm a political science major, so I feel like I have a great understanding and a great concept of the election. I've been studying nothing but maps, polls, and numbers just being thrown at me on a daily basis, and I just want you to comprehend and help you digest this election, because there's a lot more beyond the barriers. I won't go too nerdy and talk to you about counties like Wendell County for Georgia or Erie County in Pennsylvania, those critical counties, or even the potential swing county in Washington, or even Wisconsin's a very important county. I always forget that one, but nonetheless, that's too beyond the realm for this. I'm just going to give you and try to help you digest and understand this election and give you my overall election thoughts and predictions. This in no way is telling me who you should vote for. This is just pure numbers, pure math, pure facts, and at the end of the day, my opinion on who I think will win the election based off the numbers I've seen, momentum, enthusiasm, and covering it. I've been covering this election for, I would say, since about March. Per thought would say that Biden would win. Then once the debate happens, I thought that Trump was now going to be the lead front runner. And honestly, this election has been nothing like it. This election saw the presidential candidate, or current one in office, Joe Biden, drop out halfway before the Democratic primary, and his vice president Kamala Harris took over. And since Harris has entered the race, she's shaken up the game. Trump was looking like he was going to win, be the front runner pretty much after the debate, and even leading up towards it. But that's not the case. Harris joined, and it is a total race. Now on 538, the Fox does have Trump winning 52-48. By no means is this a comfortable margin. Anything could happen. And just to show you, most of the national polls right now, it's very interesting to see the Siena poll, which I believe is somewhere up here, released. I think it had Harris winning by +2. I can't find it up here, but I'll show you. Look at the win probability right around September. I believe this was after the first debate, or the only debate, I should say, between Harris and Trump. You saw that Harris had a 64 out of 100, almost a 64% chance of winning, and now it's kind of narrowed, and Trump had this late surge, and he started to pull away, but then it's brought back together, and now we're at this point, 52-48. Basically a coin flip. 7 key battleground states are Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Nevada. All states the Democrats won outside of North Carolina. The Democrats have been playing defense this whole election, and it's easy. Oh, my bad. Arizona. I forgot Arizona, like I said. The Democrats have been playing defense this whole election between these 7 battleground states. They won 6 out of 7. There's a lot of margins to see on the U.S. election map right here. Look, Biden won Wisconsin by less than 1. Won Arizona by less than 1. Won by Georgia by less than 1. These votes were decided by thousands in the margins. So, look, I've done the research. I've crunched the numbers. It's time for us to get into this political landscape right here. And overall, the election predictions, starting off with our lean states. These are the states that Harris and Trump will win by 15 plus points. These states are not competitive. Outside of the rally in Madison Square Garden, none of these candidates have really even bothered to campaign. But these are the states that will be not talked about at election night. The states I have highlighted will not, like, whatsoever, no matter, maybe you'll get a chart or two, but none of these will be talked about. So just forget them. I'm sorry if you are born in any of these states, you will not get talked about at all. Oh, I almost forgot Illinois. So these, to me, are the states that Harris and Trump will win by 15 plus. How the numbers work, too, not saying that Harris will win by 65, just saying that the margin between, like, they take California, right? Just divide that number by Trump's total cost, and that's what you'll get for your margin of victory. So, still very, very not like ridiculous numbers, but, safe numbers to say. So these are probably the states that will not get talked about in any way election night, or some of the states I'll even get to that won't be talked about on election night either. But these states are safe. These puts us now at 166 for Harris and 91 for Trump. Now let's get into the the likelies. The likely margin is categorized any between below 15 to 5 points. Now, I won't start off with it. I'll go with the strong likelies for Trump. Kansas. There's been a lot of polls in Kansas that come out that Trump's only leading by 5%. That is huge. That's really huge. I can't, the A-list pollster, let's see if I could have it right here. Here we go. Yeah, right here in Kansas. Sorry guys, my computer crashed a little bit, but here we go. Here we go. like I said, the polling in Kansas. The Kansas polling right here, only 5 points for Trump. That is a very significant margin considering the fact that Trump won Kansas by almost 15 points, almost in that safe margin. So I have Kansas as my first likely. I also have, in no prediction, I know Trump won Missouri by 15.4, but like I said, with these polls I'm seeing the outcome in Iowa for the Ann Seltzer's poll, the gold standard poll in Kansas, I feel like Trump has kind of lost his grip in the Midwest. So I have him winning Missouri, but I don't have him winning it by 15 plus. I have him winning in this around probably 10, 11, a slight reduction, but it's still a win nonetheless. South Carolina. South Carolina hasn't really been a strong Republican 15 plus point in a while. It's been slipping since the early 2010s. Right here, look, only won South Carolina by 11 points. Go to 2016. Only won it by 14, which is pretty good margins, but look, Romney only won it by 10. McCain only won it by 9, and the last time it was solid was Bush. I think both years Bush won it, yeah. So South Carolina has been shifting towards the left, and I will think we'll continue seeing that. I think Trump will probably win this by, I would say, about 8-9% margins, a slight reduction from what he won it, which was 11 points. Trump will win Utah by like probably 14, 13, not in that comfortable 15% margin. But again, it is a win nonetheless. And then finally, for Trump, I have Trump winning the second conditional district in Maine. How these districts go is if you win the popular vote, you get 2 points, and then it goes split down to concessional districts. We'll talk about Nebraska's second district in a bit and how huge it could be for the election, but I have Trump winning Maine's second congressional district. So now on to Harris. What does Harris have for her likelies? And starting off one, Colorado. I think Colorado, people have Colorado, Colorado and New Mexico, people have Colorado shifting towards the left by like about 15 plus. I still think Colorado is a safe, isn't a safe blue yet. Biden did win this by 13.5. I could see Harris possibly increasing, but I think even so, Harris might shrink down slightly a bit. That's just my personal opinion. And same goes for New Mexico. New Mexico, Biden won this by 10. I think Harris actually will shrink down again. I think this southern border issue has been a very good talking point for the Republicans. I think they've been able to articulate their point about the southern messages pretty well. They have people in states like North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, all these states that are nowhere near the southern border saying that is their primary issue. I think that is very good on the Republican Party to able to articulate that. Again, not saying that's good or bad. I'm saying good on the Republican Party. So I think that will see the margins shrink in Colorado and New Mexico. Harris's running mate, Tim Walsh's home state in Minnesota. I think Walsh, because he's from that state, it will help reduce Harris. Some people have this as a lean. I disagree. I think Harris will improve, and you can see how she's doing in the Rust Belt region. These states right here, she's polling very good. So I think Minnesota, because it's not considered a battleground, I don't see it being less than 5 points. I think Harris will win this by 8. She could even win this by double digits by 10. Another state I could see Harris winning by double digits, Virginia. Virginia is an interesting story. Look at this. Biden won this by 10 last year, but look, Clinton only won this by 5, and then Obama only won this by 3.9% in 2012, and I think 2018 he did better by 3.6. But I think as Virginia's shifting more towards the left, I think Virginia is another state that people have as a lean that she's going to win by less than 5. I disagree. She could win this by double digits, 11, 12, 13% margins, I think, for Harris. Another swing state for Harris, New Jersey is a likely, I have it right now. New Jersey, people think this is a solid blue state, which, yes, it is, but Biden only won this by 15, and Clinton, the year prior, only won this by 14.1. I think you will start to see, especially since Trump beginning in the campaign when Biden was still running, he had campaign offices out in New Hampshire, Minnesota, Virginia, New Jersey. So I think that the campaign obviously saw something in it. They were trying to expand their margin. They saw weaknesses in it when Biden was a candidate. Obviously, that changed when Harris joined the race. And like I said, when she joined the race, it really changed the landscape. I don't think people can comprehend what Harris doing in the short amount of time. She's only been in the race since, I believe, July, I think. So in the few months that she's turned this race around. The fact that it's a competitive race and you've had a candidate that hasn't been campaigning for over a year and a half now is pretty crazy. This is what she's done on 3-4 months of campaigning. Pretty impressive by the Harris and her campaign. So On to the last one. We got Maine at large for the Democrats. The reason why I don't have this as a safe blue is because Biden only won this by 9.1. I don't see Harris winning this by 15 plus. And I do think, though, I think the second district, I forgot to categorize the first district, though, as a safe blue. My apologies. But there you go. So there are your leans and there are your likelies right there for both candidates. Now let's get to the focal point of this election. These are all the states that are going to be talked about on election night, whether you like it or not. Some previous battleground states, Ohio and Florida, not considered battleground states in this election cycle, but 2 election cycles ago were considered battleground states. Even I think last election cycle they were considered battleground states. So Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, it's always talked about Texas. The Democrats always talk about flipping. And what will emphasize even more in Texas is abortions on the ballot. And the Senate race between Ted Cruz and I totally forgot the Democrat. I'm totally blanking out on the Democrat one, but I don't live in Texas. But the race where Cruz is very looking like he might lose to, I think it's Colin Allred. I think Colin Allred is the Democratic senator running for Senate. So we'll see. If the Dems can pull off a switch in Texas, you could see Texas possibly turning blue, and Texas turning blue would be doomsday scenario. Look at how I have on this map. All Harris would have to do is win like Pennsylvania, and she can even do that. She can even win this by just winning New Hampshire and Nevada. So, yeah, that's why Texas would be a doomsday scenario for the Republicans if they were to lose it. That's why there's going to be eyes up on Texas. And then Arizona, Nevada, battleground states, and Alaska. But, yeah, so I'll have Alaska as a lean this time. Now I'm getting to my leans. So these are, oh, I totally forgot, guys. New Hampshire, I have as likely. I think Harris will win New Hampshire. Biden won this by 7 points, and Clinton almost lost this. She had a lean. Biden had a 7-point swing in New Hampshire, and I thought that was very impressive. I think Harris will look to build off it. New Hampshire, the Republicans have really been trying to hammer it on New Hampshire, but I just think that there's going to be a lot of struggles with Trump, I feel like, trying to compare to the people in New Hampshire. So I have New Hampshire being a likely Harris, and I also have Nevada's 2nd district being as a likely for Harris. I think Harris will win this by probably around 7 or 8 margins. So anyway, to my leans, what I think is going to happen, who's going to win it less than 5? Alaska. I think Alaska is going to be won by like 4 or 5-ish points. Now I'm very generous with my leans. Sometimes I say a lean like 7 points. So I'm very generous in that margin, but I'm going by 5, which is the most standard. But I have Alaska. I think Harris will win this, or Harris will lose this by about 4 or 5. But I think that will give you a little sense of what's going on in the country and where I'm stating. I don't think this election is as close as it's painted out to be, just because the numbers don't add up. And I'm all for this Iowa poll that came out. But before I reveal my cards too early, let's go to Ohio. I think Ohio for Donald Trump will be a win for Ohio. Look, people thought this was a solid Republican state. Look at these pollings coming out of Ohio. You only have really Trump +3. This is one I really wanted to hammer, the Miami University one. They only have this one up, Trump up +3. And if the Democrats do hold on to their Senate seat here, the down ballot races do help. Look at 6, 8, 3, 9, 7, 9, 3. Polls like this, where it has Trump only up +3 in Ohio, start to make sense when I get on to the next poll, which I will talk about now, comes out of Iowa in a bit. But yeah, I have Ohio. I think Trump will win this by probably around 4 or 5 margin. Then I have Florida. Florida has a lot. Florida has marijuana and he has abortion on the ballot. Now, the only reason why I'm very cautious about Florida is the early voting. Ooh, wrong one. Here we go. Early voting in Florida. Look at here, right here, when we go to early voting. Yes, the margins are more swayed towards Republicans, but I want to talk about who is voting. Look at the gender. 57% of women are voting. That is huge. What people don't understand is that a lot of women, and I mean a lot of women, are voting for Harris. Harris has had a very commanding lead of women, especially 65 years or older, and even young women. You will start to see that this right here is going to be the most heavily contested how do I put this? This is going to be the most gender gap you'll see. The gender gap will be extremely big. A lot of young women and women in general will vote for Harris. A lot of young men and men in general will also vote for Trump. So you will see this gender gap. I think this gender gap could easily get into the margins of 20, 30 percentage points. The Madison Square Garden incident, where Trump and his lackeys talked about the comedian had the Puerto Rican comment. Rick Scott had to say something about it. Rick Scott is the incumbent from Florida from what we would consider as a quote-unquote solid red state. Rick Scott was backing in his shoes because of the Puerto Rican comments and because there's a lot of Puerto Ricans that live in Florida and when we talk about later, they live in Pennsylvania. So I feel like these comments will hurt Trump. Doesn't mean that it's going to make him lose the state, but I think it will hurt him. You have women coming out in droves, and you're going to have Puerto Ricans and minorities voting for Harris. I think that's enough to make sure where Trump doesn't win this state by 8-7 points that people had it. He only won this by 3 points. I think similar, he will only win this by 3 or 2 points, and that's just my prediction. On to another lean. I know this will spoil what I think for the battleground state, Arizona. The early voting in Arizona has not looked good for the Democrats. Let's go now to back to the early voting. Let's go to Arizona. Republicans are wiping the floor in Arizona right now. 42% of the Democrats, 33%. But again, there's going to be a lot of people. Mostly Republicans. There'll be some on both sides of the aisle. Democrats will probably vote for third-party candidates, and there'll be Republicans that will probably vote for third-party candidates, but I think there'll be a more percentage of Republicans that will switch over to Harris. That is something that also has to be addressed to it. And like I said, other than it, look at the gender gap. 47% women and 42% in the mail-in, and then in the mail-in and in early polling cast, you have 48% women and 43%. Only a 5-point margin. So Harris will be really good if they could drive up the droves in both Democrats and if women are voting. Those are the two key points for Harris. If she can get those numbers and marginally up, it's good. One thing that we also don't talk about is the down ballot races. Kari Lake ran for governor, I believe is in 2020. She lost, and now she's running for Senate. Ruben Gallegos is crushing her right now in the polls, and that's just because Lake is just not a very well liked. She's a election denier. She firmly believes that she won it, and she's very off-putting. She's called John McCain not very nice things by John McCain, and John McCain is an American hero. So very disgusting remarks about John McCain and very disgusting remarks about our military makes her unpopular, and that affects down ballot races. But with the early voting and the data I've gotten, I think Arizona will be a Trump won by 3 points. In 2016, Trump won this by 3 points. So it was a very big shift for Biden. Biden shifted this by like barely 4 points. I think Trump will recaptive on it. Same thing as this. The southern border will be an issue. The fact that Trump had won this in 2016 before will give him a lot of momentum. And the fact that I don't see enough in the early voting for women, especially to come out, I think Arizona will be our first flip state so far, going in the favor of former President Donald Trump. Another state I want to talk about, just to competitize this race a little bit more, is Texas. Texas, I have it as a lean Republican state. Now, there is a chance Texas goes blue. But again, Democrats have been saying this since Obama, that there's a chance that we could flip blue. There's a chance. I think this race, because of the down ballot races in the Senate and because of a lot that's on the line in Texas and the demographic switch, I don't think people talk about it. Texas only had 38 electoral votes. This year they have 40. They got +2. Same goes in Florida. A lot of demographics changing. A lot of people from California. A liberal Californian or even a conservative Californian is totally different than a liberal Texan and a liberal or a conservative Californian. So I feel with the demographics changing, Texas will slide inch closer, and then we'll get the next talk about it. So for the Republican Party, this is a scare for them. Seeing that Texas, I believe, is a tilt margin by far, or a very light lean by like 1 or 2, like 1.2, 1.3. I think that Texas, for all intents and purposes, could go to the Democratic Party. I just don't think this election cycle. Same thing. What I've seen from the early voting in Texas just hasn't favored the Democratic Party. Look at that, 37 to 50. But the gender gap too. For the gender, it's not as big as the numbers that the Harris campaign would like to see. Only a 5%, a 10%, my apologies. But while it is still big, it's just not the numbers that they could get, especially now that look at the registered. So, there's that too. I could be wrong though. I think that it's going to be closer than it is, right? The 10-point gap is what you want, but in order to flip a state like Texas, you're going to need more. So for that, I have Texas as lean, and that gives us to a very competitive race, 226 to 224. Now let's talk about pathways for going forward, because these are the main ones, right? The 7 battleground states, I would put a question mark on Iowa, just saying, but Here we go. There's a lot. There is Steve Harnacki, one of my favorite on NBC. We have the Harris direct path. Is winning the Sun Belt right here. She wins Pennsylvania, she wins Michigan, and she wins Wisconsin. She'll get to 270 exact. Why does she get to 270 exact? Well, that is because our second congressional district in Maine. Trump tried to overthrow this. He wanted the Republicans in Nebraska to cancel out, say, no, we're going to winner takes all system, because then Maine Democrats would have done the same. But they waited until Maine Democrats couldn't do this anymore. And then democracy was saved. One of the more reputable, I don't know, Houseman statement, a government official in Nebraska said, nope, we're not doing this, and it stopped it. And now it could allow Harris to cross that path hold of 270 exactly, thanks to this map. But there you go. So that's way number one, the Rust Belt. For Trump, the direct path for Trump would be the Sun Belt. He wins Arizona. Even if he wins Nevada, going in his favor, he still needs one. He still needs to flip Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin. Trump doesn't win this election without flipping a handful of states Biden won in 2020. So that's important to know. Other than that, those are the two candidates' strongest point. Harris would win Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Trump's got to win North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and then flip one of the Rust Belt states. And also keep Iowa, which we'll talk about later, which I think it's perfect time to talk about Iowa. I've been hyping this up. I'm all for this Ann Seltzer poll that came out. I have the Democrats winning Iowa. It doesn't make a lot of sense because if I have a tilt on Iowa, then Texas should be blue, Arizona should be blue, and Florida should be blue. I think this is just a very, very mystical outlier. It's kind of what I said about states in this Midwest region. We don't think it's close. The second congressional district here in Nebraska is giving me the feel that people in this area in particular, the Midwest, Tim Walz has been a very great candidate for this. That's why Harris picked him. Not because it will only help her in the Rust Belt, because it will help her in this Midwest. He's a typical Midwestern football guy. That's why you can see stuff like Kansas falling but only +5 for Trump. That's why you can see Ohio, in a sense, falling below +7 for Trump. So I feel that because of Tim Walz and because it's honestly this Ann Seltzer poll that I've been hyping up, she's a very reputable pollster. I think from the Des Moines Register, Seltzer, she is the grade A poll. She is what people would consider as LeBron James of this poll. And the fact that she has Harris up +3 is crazy. And it's been what I've been hammering this whole time. A lot of women are voting for Harris. A lot of independent 65 years or older women are voting for Harris, and young women too are voting for Harris. That's what she's killing Trump in this demographic. But Trump's been able to maintain that ground back up with the Latino vote that he's gaining, and also with the young men and men in general for Donald Trump. But look, back in 2020, I didn't cover this, but a lot of people had Biden. I mean, Biden was pretty much going to win. Look at this, right? A 1.3% advantage. Biden lost this state by 8 points. Trump had an 8-point win, and they only said, wrong one. And they only said that that Trump was winning by 0.3. Trump had an 8-point win. Ann Seltzer, right here, Trump +7. She was right. And with this one, either everyone else was wrong, or my bad, she was right, everyone else is wrong, or she is off her noggin. I'm not saying that she's reputable. She's definitely lost. The Democratic seat, I think, was the one that she thought was going to go, the governor's race in Iowa in 2018, I believe. She said that the Democratic was going to win by 2 points. They lost by, I think, 4. So I want to say. So she's not like totally reputable, but her polls are very accurate, and you have to take them with a grain of salt. When Bush and Kerry ran, Bush barely won Illinois, and she had Bush, but right here, Bush and Kerry. She had Kerry winning, but it was still close. Like, Bush didn't win this by a percentage. She won this by 0.67. So I think she's very reputable. I think either this is a lean Trump, or this is this is a tilt Trump or a tilt Harris. I don't think this is in between. I think this will be one of the more closer end election spots. It could be a Harris blowout. She wins this by 3-4 points. That's a huge win. But if that would happen, I think the rest of the country would shift. But no, I have Harris winning Iowa as a lean, as a flip. First time the Democrats win this since 2012 under Obama. Am I correct? Or did he? Yep. Obama won this by 5, and Hillary lost this by 9. So, I have Harris winning this one, and I think this will now set the tone, because I'm going to have Nevada, another 6-point electorate that Harris will try to win, overshoot it. She tries the meme, well, we're not aiming for the truck. I think that's what ended up happening. And I think Nevada, a very reputable Democrat-leaning state, will once again vote for the Democrats. I don't believe a Republican won this one since, I want to say Bush did. But Nevada had a good streak of picking their presidential winner. Anytime they voted for the candidate to win, they would end up winning the candidacy. That good streak broken in 2016 when they picked Clinton and Trump won. So I have Nevada going to the Democrats, putting Harris at 263. Another lean state I want to talk to, lean state I want to talk to, Michigan. This is the strongest one of the Democrats, and they're considered blue wall. These states, though, vote together. They voted together for the past 24 years. I mean, the last time these two haven't voted together, though those three haven't voted together, was under Senior Bush right here. Look, Wisconsin goes to Michael Dukakis, and Bush won Pennsylvania and Michigan, and this was 1988. That's the last time these guys have split from each other. So they called it the blue wall. The Democrats have won the blue wall every year, except I should go back to 2016 when Trump won this thing, all in lean margins, less than one, thanks to Jill Stein, who is who is back at it again. So Michigan, it is the strongest one of the Democrats in the blue of this blue wall. The 2022 midterms is something I haven't talked about a lot. We were expected a red, a red wedding, red massacre, and all that stuff, and it really didn't happen. The Democrats kept the Senate, and the Republicans have a slimmest of slim margins in the House. So one point was Governor Gretchen Whitmer, someone I hope to see run for president one day. She is very talented. She won the governor's race here in Michigan. So I feel like, yes, there will be a lot of Middle Easterns and specifically Muslims leaving the Democratic campaign because of what's happening to Gaza. But I believe that with that being said, there is still a lot of blue-collar workers that will vote for Harris, and they can't go to Trump because Trump is just very unlikable. He's a very unlikable candidate, and that's what people don't seem to understand. He has a very strong and loyal base, but to outsiders and middle-ground people, he's just not very likable. And I feel like that Michigan, in this sense, will go to the goes to the Democrat campaign. And I think Harris has done a very good, very good campaign. The only problem with Harris is that how are these young men? If they can get some young men to go and flip their way, I think Donald Trump is in a very, very bad state. But that aside, we'll go to the twin brother in Wisconsin, which I also have going to Harris. I think she'll actually improve on Biden. Biden won this by less than a point, by 0.6, and I think Harris will win this by roughly a point or two. Same with Michigan. She'll win this run by roughly a point or two. You'll probably see a shrinkage in Michigan and a little expansion in Wisconsin. But overall, the same states, you can end up just seeing. So that's something. So now I got the twins in the Rust Belt. I'm going to talk about the twins in the Sun Belt, North Carolina and Georgia. Starting off with Georgia, I have Donald Trump winning this by a tilt margin. Georgia was very close. It was very close last time. Georgia the Democrats won the 2020 midterms with Ralph Warnock as the Senate campaign, beating Herschel Walker. And Walker had a very bad campaign, and it was still close. It had to go to a runoff. So I think Georgia, for what it's worth, for what I'm giving, especially in the early voting, has favored the Democrats, but would want to be better than they were. I just say that. I also want to talk about the early voting in, there's your early voting in Michigan, and there's your early voting in Wisconsin. But I want to talk about Georgia, right? The Republicans are having a solid ground, and again, I talk about this, the gender gap. Look at this, right? It's pretty sizable. This is where the Democrats want to be. This is where they want to be, right? With the margins of the women to men vote. So that's pretty substantial. But look at this: registered Democrats to registered Republicans. Republicans have a +3 advantage. What's telling me right now is out of Georgia that Georgia is going to be a lean Republican state. Now, it wouldn't make sense for me to have Iowa as a lean Republican state and Georgia as a lean Iowa is a lean Democrat state and Georgia is a lean Republican state. But again, nonetheless, I just don't see it based on the numbers I'm seeing. Like I said, this will be a very close election in states. But in terms of these next two, I have them going to Harris. I have Harris winning North Carolina by a tilt margin, and I have Harris winning Pennsylvania by a lean margin. I think these two are the last. When we go to talk about Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania is the golden crop of it all. Some people say this might come down to the election because Some people don't have Iowa going to Harris. Some people don't have Georgia or North Carolina going to Harris, and then it comes down to Pennsylvania. And I think it will come down to Pennsylvania in a certain case. But whoever wins Pennsylvania, I believe, will win the election. And from the numbers I'm seeing out in Pennsylvania, let's get to our early voting. The Democrats killed it. They have been slaughtering Republicans. And look at this margin, 56 to 33. But look at the gender gap. This is a huge gap, plus 13. So I think this is where the Democrats want, where they have a lot of registered Democrats voting by mail-in and in person, and they have a lot of women voting. Now, I'm not going to get into the red mirage and the blue shift. If you want to know what it is, the red mirage is basically that Republicans tend to lead early because most Republicans live in densely not very populated areas. Democrats live in more populated areas, more cities, more suburbs. Take a look at Georgia, right? This is where, look at all these counties. These are all big counties. These, where the cities are. I believe the city of Atlanta. Let me see, Atlanta's here somewhere. I don't talk about Gwendolyn County. Talk about that all the time. But then you look at all these rural counties. I'm gonna take one. All right, take Murray County. They only have. Is it gonna show me? No, it's not gonna show me. These only have like 3,000 votes. So it's easier for them to report their votes. And because of voter suppression laws that typically affect African American communities, that typically vote Democrat, the Republicans tend to get their vote out early on and quickly. And I think in this election, you'll see that Donald Trump will do the same thing in 2020, that he will pronounce that he's won, the presidency. And then as it later goes on in the night, you start seeing that all the votes get totaled and tallied up, and you see those big ballot dumps off in those rural counties in those city counties, and you start seeing the Democrats start regaining that lead with the blue shift. That's your blue shift and red mirage. And I think Pennsylvania, people have this as a lean. I have this as people have this as a tilt. I have this as a lean for Kamala Harris. I think Harris will win this by 3 or 4 points. And I think she'll win North Carolina by 0.6. Why do I think she'll win North Carolina? Well, enthusiasm. You need enthusiasm to win elections. Look who won North Carolina in 2008. Barack Obama, and he won us by the thinnest of margins. Obama, what he stood for was change, hope. He had a lot going on for him. This is what wins campaigns. It is momentum. It is, positivity. The Trump campaign has no momentum. They've been grasping on for dear life for a while now. This late Trump surge didn't really feel like a surge, right? When this Ann Seltzer poll came out, it really might be the turning point, in 2024. Here we go. Look right here. +3 for Harris. No one in their right mind is near it. But the most reputable pollster in Iowa, who knows her stuff, has +3 Harris. I think you'll start to see the effect of this election. And that is my final election, guys. Is it the most best number accuracy? No, I have Iowa. If most people who have Iowa as a lean, they'll have Texas, Florida, Georgia, and all them, Arizona going. But I don't. I think that there's just there's election outliers that just tend to happen, and this will be one case of it. But there you go, guys. That is my 2024 official election predictions. In the 2 weeks, I'll come back at it and see if I went. Do I think I'll go 50 for 50? No, I'm not very confident in Iowa. But look, you need upsets. This is what election is about. It is unpredictable. Think outside the box. And for that, I think Kamala Harris will be the 47th president of the United States, the first female president of the United States. And it will be coming at a time where we, as a country, could look forward to hope and positivity, not anger and blaming. And hopefully that shift will reflect in the voting booth ballot as what I fear and the vibes I'm getting for this election. The media covers this as a horse race, style with campaigns, rallies, and all this other jargon, when in reality, I think that election coverage is about you as the voter and, you obsessing it. This is not a horse race at the end of the day. You have to do your research on these candidates. I've done my research on these candidates. You have to do everything you can to formulate it. I'm not saying to go out and not vote, but if you don't have the proper information or you haven't done your studying, if you have not done the research into what these both candidates stand for, then I suggest that, do your country a service by staying home, because it is your freedom to not, stay up on the election. If you don't care about politics, it is your choice. It is the beauty of this country, but you could do a possible disservice to your country by not doing the research and voting for the wrong candidate for you and the country. So that being said, that is my 2024 election predictions, guys. I'll come back in 2 weeks. Another episode of Inside the Harvest will come out, but as me, this is a little passion project of mine, and as someone who controls and edits the Harvest, I thought this would be a good time for me to express to you who I think is going to win this election, and we could look at this 4 years from now when the next presidential election comes, and we will see. But thank you guys for watching this, and I hope to see you 4 years from now, or 2 weeks from now, actually, when I do a cover up to see if I was right about, did I go 50 for 50? Probably not, but thank you guys for watching nonetheless.